Thanks, listeners, for joining us. Elko Live today features an update from our Elko County Fire Protection District Chief. Chief Matt Peterson is in studio today. It's always great to see you, Chief. Thank you for the time. There's a lot to go over today because the fire district has accomplished a lot in the previous year, but you're also looking forward to many things in this new year.
Yep. Thanks for having me. We've come a long ways in the last couple of years. It's exciting to watch. It's fun to be a part of it. I've had a lot of good support, and we look forward to continuing to grow.
Yes, in fact, you are able to give, at least in brief, of your 35-page year-end report to the Elko County Commission fairly recently. That was well received, Chief. And let's talk about some of the staffing improvements throughout, because Elko County Fire Protection District, first of all, is huge from border to border.
So the district took over in 2015 from the state. When they had it, the state had about 21 employees that were between Elko, Spring Creek, Wells, and then their support staff as well. So their administrators, mechanics, things like that. When we took the district over, they had about 17 folks. Today we're at 19 that are district funded, and we have about 27 with our grant surge. That doesn't include our seasonals, part-time staff, people that we bring in to just go to wildland fires, either support drivers, water tenders, things like that. We can go up to about 38 if we had to. That's funded between grants, district funding, and some of those external resources. So with Elko, we have a handful of staff. We have our administrative staff and then a couple line firefighters, and then all of our grant staff is based out of Elko. We have a couple heavy equipment operators that are based out of Spring Creek that are grant funded. We do support that with district funding and additional response time. Spring Creek is staffed with 3 personnel per day. Plus Spring Creek volunteers. Wells has 2 firefighters, and we'll get into the Wells interlocal here in a minute. And then Jackpot has a full-time chief as well as 3 firefighters, and they're the town of Jackpot employees, but they support the district so much.
Right, and that is a key component is collaboration throughout the Elko County Fire Protection District, a lot of mutual aid, obviously, that you depend on, and then the employees, the staff who are trained in many disciplines.
So all of our firefighters are firefighters and EMTs. We also do a little bit of rope rescue, do the low angle rope rescue. We do ice and water rescue. They all do the extrications and hazmat, minimal hazmat on the highways. If it's something big, we have to call in one of our joint teams or neighbors. We also support wildland pretty heavy. It's one of our biggest workloads in the summer. So we are currently going through hiring all of our seasonals. They start testing. We do it once a month until we have all of our positions filled. We're going to go about 15 or more seasonals this year, just because the additional grant load that we took on, some of our Nevada energy contract work, things like that. And so if people are interested, we're flying our seasonal jobs on our website right now.
That's elkocountynv.net.
ElkoCountyNV.net, or just if you search Elko County Jobs, they should pop up.
That's great. So that's talking about the seasonal surge. Good news that we'll be able to be fully staffed and have plenty of employees. And that's, again, if you get people applying for those positions. Let's just talk briefly before we move on, because the Wells Interlocal is also a pretty cool arrangement for the community. Spring Creek, you have an arrangement there where now the Spring Creek community is served with EMS. You have an ambulance station there, right?
Yeah, so it's not an Elko County Fire ambulance, but we work hand in hand with Elko County Ambulance, and there is an ambulance stationed out of there. We're going through some remodel on our station so that we can incorporate all of theirs out of there. Currently, they're renting a facility to put their people out of. But it has reduced the response time and helped out that community so much.
That community is growing so much, and there's such a variety of activity there, so it just makes sense. So let's move on. This new Wells interlocal agreement that received the approval of Elko County Commissioners, and I think we can talk about the finances, but Wells is going to pay about $100,000 a year, Chief Peterson?
So we're working through that. Elko County Commission didn't approve it. We're doing it this next month.
Oh, okay.
They wanted me to go back to the drawing board and define some things a little better. Wells City Council approved it, but we have some amendments that we're going to send back just to clean up some language, make things a little more defined, who pays for what they're actually paying for. And it's our intent is to hire someone, and we don't know what that looks like yet. Last time we hired a firefighter in Wells, it took quite a while. So that's why I didn't define it in the agreement as black and white as it could be, because we could end up filling it through current resources through the district, part-time, seasonal, or overtime staff. And really, Wells is buying into the service. We already provide a lot of the reporting systems, the apparatus, the maintenance, the training, and so we're trying to help them out. They're looking for a little more support, and administratively is where they're looking for a lot of that, of the compliance, the maintenance, things like that on SCBAs, turnouts. It's very hard in today's world for just a volunteer department to function with the requirements and what it takes, especially when people have full-time jobs already. It's hard to, I have a full-time job, now I'm going to go donate my time at the end of the day. And so it's hard for a volunteer fire department to take on the administrative workload as well.
Well, that makes sense, Matt, and I'm sure the community really appreciates it. And it's not that unusual. We've had these arrangements elsewhere in the county.
Yep, we've had. It's pretty similar. The sheriff's department actually provides that law enforcement service for Wells currently. So we're doing a pretty similar model, even though we already have staff there that helps cover that. And we're working through that with commissioners and city council to make sure that they're comfortable with the long-term commitments of hiring people, if that's the direction it goes, to providing that service. The commissioners do see the benefit of it's a combined service. We're here it's the economies of scale. Why do we have one department here that when we could get the global benefits of the fire service?
And it's such a spread out district as we talked about. Well, and speaking of spread out, you have crews that are already at work to mitigate fuel in advance of wildfire season.
So we've been working through, we have a couple grants. We have some BLM, Forest Service, NDF, some additional grants that we do fuels mitigation on private lands, and as well as we have agreements where we do fuels mitigation and fuels treatments on federal lands. So we've been working through the Forest Service. We've been hauling green firewood, so fresh cut products out. We've been donating those on behalf of the Forest Service to the tribes in the county. We're working through to try and create a program so some of the elderly populations can get firewood from us through the Forest Service, get it. And then also we're doing prescribed burns. We've been doing pile burns of all the fuel that we've hauled off, and we put them on our burn yards, and we've been getting rid of that over the winter. We just, working with NDF, we're going to be doing additional fuels projects on private land in Elko, Spring Creek, Lamoille, Jigs, but we also have additional grants that we're doing them in almost every community from Jarbidge to Ruby Valley, from Wendover to Carlin, that we'll be doing fuels projects. And those are targeted at reducing wildfire threat in communities. So our goals are, we need good access to and through communities. We need to be able to protect them from external threats as well as private property treatments within the community.
And your message is pretty much the same as Clint Mothershed from Elko BLM District Fire District. And we also have to be responsible as property owners, right, Chief? You have to clean up around your space.
Yeah, and we realize that some of that's easier said than done. Some of the resources that people have, they don't have the resources to haul off the vegetation or haul off the waste on their property to make it more defensible. We're working through a FEMA grant right now where we can do green waste projects, and hopefully we'll find out in the next couple months if we receive that or not. Our intent is going to be that if a community calls us or a homeowner calls us and says we're doing a green waste, we're going to take out all these juniper bushes, we'll go do a defensible space inspection, as well as we'll drop a dump trailer off. They fill it up. We come and pick it up about a week later, and we'll get rid of the vegetation for them. We can either haul it back to our yard and dispose of it through burning or chipping, or we'll haul it to a landfill, and that's where it'll go.
Wow, that's amazing, Chief. Again, as you suggested, I mean, we've come a long way. Spring Creek was one of the most at-risk communities in the nation, I think, when you first started, and now you're going in and helping property owners to mitigate wherever you can. You must like writing grants, too, because you do write a lot of grants.
It's not my favorite thing, but I have a hard time passing it up because we only have a finite amount of money to deal with in our district budget, and so I'm trying to milk that and make that go as far as possible when we can do these grants, and then try and lead into fuels projects that leads into the insurance issues in the county as well. And so it's not just I don't want the perception to be that we're empire building or just trying to balloon the fire district. This is, all of these projects lead into fuels mitigation, and it's not just Spring Creek that was one of the highest threat. Elko County we get fires here on a regular basis. We're a high risk community. And so if we can't reduce that risk and demonstrate in communities, people are starting to get insurance dropped. And so with that insurance being dropped, if we can do green waste projects, if we can do fuels mitigation on private properties or do green strips around communities, we can report that back to the state, report it back to insurance companies saying, hey, look at all this work we did. And it helps homeowners communicate with their insurance companies and say, we have all these fuels projects that have been done. We've done these inspections, and it hopefully helps save cancellations.
Well, you've been working with the city fire chief, James Johnston, right on, because the city has had this excellent ISO rating, but yet the city of Elko also remains within that high fire risk, right?
Yeah, and the county residents, some of them receive benefits from that ISO rating. We go through ISO ratings throughout the we did Jarbidge, Montello, Pilot Valley, and Ruby Valley this last year. We already have 3 reports for new ones coming in to review the ISO ratings. We have a challenge dropping ours because we don't have fire stations close to everyone's home. And when we're in rural communities like that, but there's only so much that the insurance companies factor in with ISO rating and wildland fire hazard. As we've seen in California, when it's burning entire towns down, it's very hard for them to accept that risk. And so if we can demonstrate to them we're also trying to mitigate that, they're a little more apt to help us out and receive the information.
Yeah, you are definitely responding to the issue. So on that topic of insurance issues, anything else I don't know if Nevada lawmakers are taking this up at all, or?
So there's a couple bills proposed. There's AB 437, I believe, that is going to try and address and model it after Florida and some of the hurricane threats. And so we're working with legislators to try and figure out what that actually looks like. The challenge with that is the funding for the program. And so trying to find avenues to fund it that doesn't impact the taxpayer or impact them so much that we're not making people poorer than they already are.
Yeah, when they're already facing insurance costs.
So
increase.
It is on the legislative agenda. It's a tough issue to address, and part of it is trying to educate everyone of what the real problem is with the issue, and that's hard to try and communicate how much this impacts. If people can't keep insurance, their mortgage is affected. We can't sell homes as effectively. So bringing new businesses in, maintaining current business production rates, it all contributes to each other. And so working with the legislature, they've been great so far of trying to understand the issue, and then also what's a path forward to fix the problem at hand.
We know Governor Lombardo was here again early on in your career and, made priority of identifying these districts and making sure that fire departments, had what they needed, working with the federal agencies too. So hopefully when it gets down to it,
they're well aware of the issue. Just we're
Good.
trying to find a path forward of how to fix the problem.
Matt Peterson is our guest today. He's Elko County Fire Protection District Fire Chief, and we're getting an update, kind of an overview, some of the highlights, what to look forward to. And speaking of, there's a new burn permit system that should make it more streamlined. It looks like an online form.
Yeah, currently we use a makeshift burn permit system where they go on and fill out a form online. We're implementing a new burn permit system on April 7th. Folks will be able to start accessing and creating new accounts for themselves on April 1st. No, it's not an April Fool's joke. To start creating, what this does for us is it displays a map in our dispatch center of where each burn is. And so there will be 2 types of permits that folks can get. They can get a burn permit for natural vegetation, which is if they're clearing their property out, then they can build a pile that's a 4x4. They can go on and they can burn between the hours of 6 a.m. and noon. They can burn between 6 a.m. and noon. And then there's also a warming fire permit, so which is all the backyard fire pits and things like that, and the burn barrels, that they can get a permit for that, which will be, they can pretty much do that at any time of the day. We don't recommend. And actually, when you get the permit, it says you can't do it during high winds. You can't do it during red flag events or high fire danger.
So people can go online. The burn permits will be managed through Elko County NV.firepermits.com. This starts on April 1st, is what you said, live and available beginning April 1st.
They can start to create accounts on April 1st. We're going to officially start using the system on April 7th. That gives us a time to have both systems overlapped. Folks who have a current burn permit should receive an email this week or next week from a blanket email that comes from Elko County NV saying your burn permit is going to be canceled on this day. You need to go create a new one on this. Elko County NV.firepermits.com.
And you said this is going to be kind of an interactive, the map will be available to dispatch centers?
To dispatch?
Or to individuals?
It might be to individuals. I'd have to go back and look on there.
It's just kind of fascinating to think that, I think my neighbor's having a...
The website is actually active right now,
Cool.
But we aren't looking and using the permits yet. But people can go on and look, and it's Elko County NV.firepermits.com.
That sounds great.
And that link will just be replaced on our current webpage. So the current burn permit link will be replaced with this new one.
Well, thanks for using the latest technology, Chief Peterson. I'm sure people are going to appreciate that. So that's good news.
And it helps our dispatch center. We get a lot of calls of, I see smoke in this area. It'll help our dispatchers cross-reference where that's coming from, and we send the appropriate response to the appropriate place.
Talking with our Fire Chief, Matt Peterson, kind of getting through a lot of the highlights. There are, again, 35 pages in this end-of-year report, which is online at elkocountynv.net. You can click on to the county agendas, and you can find this. I think it was at the February meeting you presented, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I try and do my annual report, end-of-year report, and then an annual plan for the next year. I try and do it between January, February, and March every year. So I let the whole calendar year finish, and then we'll start the new one off fresh.
Yeah, planning, definitely. You are good at that. Yeah.
I'm okay at it. If you ask my staff, they're getting over it. But we try really hard, and we're trying hard to solve the problems at hand and make our service for the community better.
And speaking of problems, going into fire season, we know that you're getting as much information as you can, even with challenges to maybe some federal agencies. I know you rely on NOAA. Obviously, there have been back and forth on whether federal agencies would have enough firefighters. But tell us what you do know about the fire season outlook, Chief.
With all this moisture we're getting this spring, and we didn't have a heavy snowpack, we're pretty concerned about the grass crop that we're going to have because it didn't mat down last year's grass crop. So we're going to have last year's grass crop on top of this year's grass crop. So there's a lot of vegetation to burn out there. We're pretty concerned. And nationwide, the staffing levels, just recruiting firefighters has been hard for probably the last 3 to 5 years. It's been pretty hard. So promoting our seasonal positions, trying to get additional firefighters. BLM's going through some additional hiring, and they'll do their on-call crews coming up. Forest Service here should be fully staffed up, but we're still concerned with all the vegetation that fires are going to grow faster than they have in the past. And so we want the public to have a plan together if they have to evacuate, have a plan together to protect their property beforehand, of thinning that vegetation so that if there is a fire, the chances of it coming all the way under your property are a lot lower.
You can go to livingwithfire.info. Is that still a good website?
Living with Fire in Nevada, yep.
Okay.
You can go to Nevada Fire Info. You can Google, and that pops up and shows you current fires within the state. There's been a couple cool apps that have come out in the last couple of years. Some of them are free, some are not. There's one that's called Watch Duty. It allows you to get notified of fires within the county, and it pops up. You can actually scroll all across the nation. There's a free version, and then there's different versions of paid that you can purchase as well. But helps you keep aware and a situational awareness of what's going on in our county.
And if you do need more information about how to prepare those go kits for people, for pets, for children, redcross.org has had a really good list in the past.
Red Cross has some, National Fire Academy has some, FEMA has some, as well as the Living with Fire. They all have checklists on what to be prepared for, the medications, having go bags, what to do with pets, what to do with your animals, how to leave your house, things like that. And we're starting to work through our emergency management in the county to create some evacuation messaging. So when it happens, we're not trying to create it from scratch of where you can take your large animals, where you can take your small animals, good evacuation routes. Some of folks concerned if there's a wildland fire in Spring Creek coming back over the summit. We have identified areas that people can go that are pretty safe areas, like the high school parking lot in Spring Creek, the Horse Palace. Those are areas that even if there's a fire, there's enough space there to keep people spaced while it passes, and then we can start to get people to safer areas.
That's great news. Thank you, Chief, for letting us know. And we can talk more about that, obviously, as we start fire season. I mean, it could start any time, to be fair. I mean, once it dries out.
Battle Mountain had a fire yesterday. There was about an acre fire. So fire season is here.
Yep. So it is never too early to start talking about that. But those plans are important, and we'll communicate with you and the Spring Creek community, because obviously you've hit on something that's really a concern and top of the mind for a lot of people, is how to safely get out of a community. And it could happen anywhere, whether it's Kittredge Canyon that we've seen before.
Yeah, and we're working on, like I say, we're working on a lot of things, but we're catching up on a lot of hot topic issues, no pun intended.
Right. Yeah, those are
creating evacuation routes, safe refuge areas, where to go. Sometimes always the answer isn't trying to drive. If there's a fire in Spring Creek, coming to Elko. Sometimes the answer is going to that big open parking lot, like the high school or the churches or
any of the shopping areas.
Yep, any of the shopping areas. Sometimes it's easier and safer just to go there instead of trying to get 20 miles away.
Good call on that one, Chief. We're talking with our Fire Protection District Chief, Matt Peterson here, and we're just getting caught up on a few of some of the outstanding issues, some of the highlights for the year. We do know that Elko Fire Protection District, as do other agencies, work closely with NDF. We heard early, I think, in the year about some budget woes, right? Does that impact us? I think it was an accounting issue on their part. They weren't billing for interlocal agreement services. That's new to you?
That does not affect us.
Good.
And, I'm not the audit expert, but I do know that they had to put a pause on billing external agencies. They still paid all of their cooperators, and they're still catching up on some of those payments from this last fire season, but that's pretty typical to get a delay between when we go on the fires to when we get reimbursed for them. They billed over $33 or $34 million, which I think the audit said that they were hadn't billed 32, and so that's for fires that are out of the county, out of the state, out of our jurisdiction. They put a pause on that because they implemented a new billing system locally within the state, and so they paused their paper billing while they implemented the system. And now I think they're getting pretty far to caught up. But like I said, I'm not as in depth on their audits, so. I'm not the perfect person to ask.
Well, you did, I think, reassure us, because we hadn't heard much. And, Chief, it's interesting. It seems as though that different system, that accounting pay system, was implemented at about the same time as the state taxation department. They implemented new software. The city was just talking about this, City Manager Jan Baum yesterday. That's impacted Elko City local government. We're about $2 million short in sales and use taxes. Other communities in the city are short anywhere from $7 million or more because of a new software system.
Yeah, and
isn't it crazy?
I am not the expert there. The system on the going from paper to current system has been great for us. Like when we implement anything new, just like when we're going to implement the burn permit system, I'm sure we're going to encounter hiccups. We ask that people be patient with us while we try and iron those out. And I wish I knew more about those other ones to give you more insight, but I'm not the expert.
Well, it's good to hear, though, that you have a handle on what we are doing locally, because obviously we need this new technology. It helps us save money and is more convenient for taxpayers and users. So
it makes us dramatically more efficient. There were times that we had staff in the office of people calling in all day long, and they would spend all day doing burn permits. And so we're shifting that where people can go online. You can go on your phone. You can go on your computer. It takes literally less than 15 minutes to set up an account and activate your burn.
Yep. So take advantage of that, just like we talked about before. Well, Chief, we do know, talking with some of our county commissioners, like our now chair, again, of the county governing panel, John Carr, who is really high on the fire service, by the way, having been a volunteer for many years. There are local infrastructure needs, right? And that's something that there's some planning for, because we have fire trucks in the city sitting outside in the elements, and that's not good.
Yeah, so our headquarters in Elko for the county fire, we actually don't have apparatus storage. We're borrowing space from the county, and we share a building with county buildings and grounds to park our equipment inside, but it also still doesn't park all of our equipment inside. We're hoping in the next couple of years to hopefully get some hands on some funding and some capital funding from the county. We've also put in additional grants outside of the county to try and support that, of potentially a training center or EOC or a maintenance facility, anything to get the ball rolling so we can get trucks outside, inside. And so we've worked really hard to get some of our VFD facilities upgraded. We've been given grants from the county to the volunteer 501c3s, and they're actually building fire stations as we speak. We have one in Ruby Valley, we have one in Death and Osino currently under construction. North Fork is going through their processes under the grant to start theirs and get them constructed. So it's pretty exciting times. Never in my time did I think that I would see so much progress.
Well, absolutely. And I think those communities are really proud. There's a lot of buy-in, Chief, and they want to make sure any new equipment they have is also properly stored so that it's ready to use in case of emergency.
Yeah, and that's some of the old facilities we had. They would not keep the trucks as warm and ready to go as we needed to be. They were pretty old, dilapidated buildings, and so it's pretty exciting to watch them catch up to today's times and needs for the community.
Well, in fact, I guess the big dream, and it's not just yours, or if it is yours, but is to have some co-located services for maybe all of EMS, to include our friends and partners with Elko County Ambulance, for example, because they're also kind of stuffed into the corner right there on the Elko High School campus.
Actually, with their administration, the EMS chief and the EMS deputy chief share an office with Elko County Fire. So we already share services, we share facilities, we share maintenance. It's pretty exciting, and their original building started as just a place to store them overnight. It turned into, now they're in a physical therapy building that they had to remodel. We did a good job of making do with what we had, and we're hoping to keep moving forward and make everything better.
And just so listeners are aware, this is the result of decades of neglect. I think it's fair to say it's just, we've always been a conservative county. I don't think we've ever had a chief like you who could actually put all of these elements together, apply for these grants like you're talking about. You're extremely progressive, and you do motivate the staff. These are people and professionals who have common goals, Chief.
I would rebut it's neglect piece. We're working within the budget that we have.
Absolutely.
So, building facilities is tough, and it's, upgrading ambulances, upgrading fire engines. We've been really creative about where we find the funding, how we're going to do it.
And now we have a line item.
We do have a line item. And so what's exciting for us is, our original plan was to buy new fire trucks for our volunteers. And it's that plan, when we did the math all the way out, there would have been a 100-year-old fire truck that we were still running as frontline while we're doing the plan. And while it would be super amazing to have brand new trucks all the way across the district, the model didn't reflect reality. We needed to step up our game and be a little more progressive about replacing trucks. And so we found the used market sometimes is just as good. So we have replaced a lot of our apparatus with used apparatus, but it looks great. We've sent them through refurbs. We've sent our mechanics through them. And if you ask most of our volunteers, they love the new truck that they got that replaced the 1956 truck that they were running.
That should have been in a museum.
Yeah, it should have been in a museum. So it's super exciting.
Well, Chief, all of this progress is really exciting, and it's good to know that there are plans for some more infrastructure, which is needed within the Elko County emergency community. A lot has been done, and that was and so I do want to make sure people realize that being conservative is not a bad thing, obviously, financially, but sometimes you really have to look to identify sources of funding that weren't being used. And a perfect example of that is the E911 system. We have franchise cell phone companies. We weren't utilizing our franchise fee or our surcharges, but now look at what we've been able to accomplish just through dispatch by actually collecting some fees.
It's been awesome, and we're starting to dip in to be able to use that for radios. And so the E911, we look at it of anything from the caller calling 911 all the way to the resource going to the call and then coming back to their home base, whatever that home base is. Anything in that communicates to and from dispatch, to and from the caller. So it's been just actually using the box that we were supposed to work within originally. We didn't use it to its max potential, and I think we're starting to get there. And the commission has really pushed me to, hey, be creative. If as long as you're being creative and we're doing what's legal, then keep doing it. And it's been that's why I put in for so many grants. I think it's silly that we all pay federal taxes, we all pay state taxes. We should be getting just as much as we pay in back into our own communities, and that's my goal.
Thank you, Chief. Is there anything that we didn't talk about since we've neared the end of our time now? I want to make sure we covered your bases today.
No, I just want to keep hammering out that we're still flying seasonal positions. Any of those kids that are turning 18 between now and June, have them put in. If they're right on the cusp of June, have them call our office. We're getting ready for our new burn permit system. That's something we're really trying to push out that information. So our dispatch centers and our responding resources aren't responding to calls that aren't real calls. And so that's part of our biggest push with our burn permit system, is to be able to have more accountability on the property owner, the fire district, the dispatch centers, our commissioners. So we're all on the same page of what we're spending money and being more responsible to respond to.
Elko County Fire Protection District Chief Matt Peterson, our guest today here on Elko Live today. Thank you, Chief, so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.